Hey everybody, welcome to DBS Films podcast. My name is Colin. With me as always is my brother Brennan. Together we make movies with DBS Films. Today's episode we're going into part 2 of tips on auditioning for a DBS film. Reason for that is the auditions for our next project are going live very shortly. Again, be sure to take a look at our Discord channel because that is where we do the audition process, and that is where we will have more information on it. Also, be sure to take a look at The Force of Death online. It's our newest feature film, and if you watch it, review it, that means we can make more movies and cast more people, increasing the odds for everyone. So if you haven't listened to the first part, I highly recommend you go ahead and take a listen to that because it really highlights the mindset and our overall thoughts on this audition process. In this episode, we want to give you a breakdown of how the audition process actually works, and on top of that, give you some tips to make sure you have the best process as possible. So to give you a breakdown, basically what's going to happen is we will be posting a PDF that highlights all of the roles and all of the lines you will be reading from. All you have to do is record a video of yourself reading said lines and then upload them to a Google form that we have set up in the Discord, and you are good to go. If you make it through the first round, you will go to a callback with myself. And basically what we will go ahead and do is have a more detailed live callback. Again, if you are a DBS legend, you automatically get there. And if you're a super fan, you will automatically get feedback from me as well too. So we really try and make it as easy as possible for you. It is completely remote, 100% free, always will be. But in this episode, we basically want to highlight just some tips on that process. So overall, let's start off. I think number one is really try and make sure you have no audio or video issues when it comes to your recording. I would say, again, we are a lot different than most casting in the sense that, we really don't need that perfect background or anything like that. We can really kind of are a lot more understanding. But if there's any kind of choppiness in the video quality or audio issues, it does take away from it. And again, most iPhones nowadays really do have the quality for it. Make sure what you are uploading, it doesn't get compressed. I think the biggest issue is when someone usually tries to upload it from something to another. I don't know if they use a different software or something, but it can end up making it really compressed. So do you want to just talk about how the quality in the audio, it's not that it's really going to do so much to help you, but it can definitely hurt you.
Yeah, I think the three biggest issues that I see right off the bat that disqualify people really quickly is audio issues. And I'm saying, look, an iPhone is absolutely fine, 100% fine. A Zoom camera, which we're using right now, is 100% fine. The issue comes when you put your phone all the way across the hallway or all the way down the hallway and you're echoing, or you're in a giant bathroom and you put your phone down there and I can't hear you, or there's like audio distortion stuff, or you're in a room and you have dogs barking, the TV on and music playing. Like all that stuff is kind of distracting. Does it kind of disqualify you? Not really, unless I really can't hear you, but it kind of just shows me like you're not really taking this too seriously. If you can't take the 5 seconds to go to a room and shut the door and, put your phone right next to you, or set up a Zoom meeting on a laptop, that's just not a good sign. You're not off to a good start. With the video stuff, it's the same thing. Like all these cameras, all these phones are very easy to use. Everyone's using like TikTok and Snapchat and everything. Those are fine. The cameras are absolutely fine. You just got to make sure you upload it to YouTube properly. Like Kel said, if it's pixelated and I can't see your face, then you got a problem. If your room, turn on the lights. If your room is completely black and I cannot see your face, that is a problem. And so you think that's easy, but I get a whole bunch of bad quality auditions. The frame rate and everything's all jumbled and I can't even see their face because it's such low quality. And that affects it. If I can't see your face, if I can't hear you, if it's moving in like slow motion because it was buffering on your phone for whatever reason, it's going to hurt you. And there's really no reason why you can't have a good quality image these days. I mean, I see people sharing all the social media stuff. Everything's fine. Everything has a camera now. It's not like you have to go out and buy the best gear. We just need something that's clear and concise. And then the third thing is you got to read the lines, man. I see so many people just going off and reading a whole bunch of stuff that has nothing to do with the sides and the lines that we give you. We're giving you the lines for a reason because this is what we want. If you can't even follow the sides, then, it's just not good. And you'd be like, oh, that's common sense, Brendan. Well, I get a ton of people. I probably say 10% of the people don't even read the lines. And look, it's great for you to improv. but you can improv later on down the line when we know that you can read the lines. You don't just start improving. You have to make sure you can hit the beats properly, because I have to see essentially who can play this character. And to just give you an idea, if you have, we had 7,000 auditions for, I believe it was Into the Forest. Every person gets like 20 to 30 seconds. And I always go to the same spot on all these audition tapes because I know it's like a high energy scene. And, you know, yes, your audition may be 3 or 4 minutes long, but everyone gets that same specific scene or that same specific part of the scene. If you can't get that done properly, or if you're not reading those lines and I can't find where you're doing this part of the script, your odds are done. Because that's how we make the first cut round. I go to the most intense part of the scene, and if you can get that done, then good. Then I go and watch the rest of your audition, the 3 or 4 minutes. But you really got to make sure you're sticking to the script. You got to make sure your audio is good. Please go in a room that's quiet, that I can hear you, that doesn't have too much of an echo. And then make sure you have some kind of video quality, to get this thing done. And that's pretty much it. Just really don't disqualify yourself even before you get to the acting phase.
That is definitely good advice. And, really that's kind of the first step to it. I think the second thing I want to bring up when it comes to the lines is memorize them. And this is usually one of the bigger feedbacks that I have with the acting challenge. Again, it's not the easiest thing to memorize these lines, but I will say 100%, I can instantly tell when your eyes dart to a paper. And no matter what, no matter how good of an actor you are, your performance will be better if you memorize the lines. And the reason for that is you can focus 100% on the delivery versus having to read it. So I think the first real major one is memorize those lines. Talk them over. And another issue with not being able to memorize the lines is, we don't have the lines in front of you when you're on set. So that's going to be an issue that's also just, highlighted right away for that. So I think that's one of the bigger ones, is just really take the time, have someone, if you can read them with, is always good. If you can just kind of walk around and say them to yourself is usually good, but really make sure you memorize those lines.
Yeah, no, 100%. And look, it would be an issue if I was giving you 3 to 4 pages of dialogue, but if you look at our sides, it's one page. It's 1 page. That's it. It's 1 page dialogue. And if you don't take the time, it should take you only 10, 15 minutes to memorize the lines. And if you don't take the time to do that, number one, like Kel said, your performance is going to suffer, but it doesn't really reflect very well on you, because I'm saying, look, if you can't give me 10 to 15 minutes to memorize these lines, how are you going to memorize a 90-page script? It's very difficult to do that because we don't have 6 months of pre-production. Once we do the auditions, we're going to be shooting probably within the next month. So you're asking, if you can't do 1 page in 15 minutes, to ask you to do 90 pages and understand that character, understand where you need to go, it's just, it doesn't reflect very well on you. So please learn the lines to the best of your ability. And really, if you do probably 10, 11 different takes of the thing, get the jitters out, get the self-tape, watch your tape and see what you like, kind of give yourself self-feedback. By the time you get to take 8 or 10, you'll have the thing memorized. So you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, get the jitters out, get as many submissions as you possibly can. But really, if you're looking down, if your eyes are looking away, eye contact is such a huge, crucial thing of auditions. How you use your body is a huge part of auditions. How you use the space. A lot of actors don't use the space in their auditions. All that stuff is super critical in your performance. And if you're sitting there reading and it's going to be monotone, it's going to be bland, it's not going to disqualify you, but I don't think you're putting your best foot forward.
Exactly that. And you are leading into my very next point, which is the best advice that I really think I can give. That, again, I think those first 2 ones, making sure you have a good quality, making sure you're memorizing the lines, I think those are straightforward. But I think this is one that I would argue most people don't do. Whereas the first 2, I think most people do. I think this is the one that most people don't do. And I think you're only giving yourself a massive disadvantage if you're not doing it. And that's what you were saying. Go ahead, film your audition, have it ready to go, watch it, and then redo it. And the reason I say that is when we film on set, usually take 1 through 4 are just garbage time to get out of the way, just to get the things flowing, see how it is, see how the improvements are. And I can guarantee you, if you do your first take versus if you do your fifth take, and again, these are full takes. This isn't like, oh, I screwed up, let me try again. This was completed, I could submit this. Watch it, see how you like it, go back, do it again. And I would do this 3, if not 4 times. And the reason for that is I would say your 4th time is always going to be better than your first time. You're going to be more comfortable about it. You'll see maybe something that might stand out. Again, you'll memorize the line a little bit more, as you're mentioning. So really, one of the biggest things that I recommend is film this multiple times. And I mean multiple times, ready to go. Like, you could upload it and then film it again.
Yeah, I mean, I really agree. And I would probably expand upon that and say, try and do 8 to 10 of these, and then get a family member or a friend or someone to take a look at them, because you might not be the best judge of yourself. I know I can't even tell the best takes when I'm actually on set filming things. Take a step back, show it to some people and say, hey, which one do you like the best? And then, send that one off, or try and get more people. If you know more people, get general feedback on it. But I think that that's important stuff. If you're really just trying to knock one of these out within the first 3 takes, I mean, you can do it if you're a seasoned actor, but I think your odds are, not the best. But I also think there's kind of burnout. I think probably 6 to 10 is probably a good amount. And, pick one that you want to do the best. And I think that's just the way you have to do it. But you should watch them. You should kind of figure out what you're trying to do. Make sure the quality's good. I mean, that's just another thing of, if you're sending me something that the quality's bad and you're just uploading it, that tells me you didn't watch it, because why would you send it in if there's a whole bunch of issues with it? So I definitely think that's it. Try and shoot for 6 to 10. If you want to do more, go for it. But if you can, get feedback, give yourself feedback, and really try and find the best one that you did.
Exactly that. So here is going to be the last real piece of major advice that I would say. You just kind of when you're looking at doing this audition process, and that to me is, we appreciate it when you kind of play the part. One of the things Bo in Into the Forest 2.0, Andrew, he came out full hiking equipment. Well, Irish, who was in the Roger project, we had him at first. He was auditioning for one of the original one of the people who are searching in the beginning, and he had a little vest on. So we appreciate those little types of details. So if you're reading the scene and the sides and you have something, that doesn't mean go out and purchase something, but the more you can look the part, it does 2 things. One, it puts us more into it, and 2, it shows really just how serious you are about the role, because you're taking extra little details for it. And to give you an idea, the reason why we're most likely bringing Irish back is he showed up with all of this stuff that, he's like, hey, I think this actually looks really cool. Made it a lot easier. His outfit was better than the outfit that we had purchased for him. And we're like, hey, we're going to roll with it. So that level of commitment, you said it again for Roger when we were doing the fire scene, he did it by a fire pit. Those things actually do set you apart. And if you can set yourself apart amongst 1,000 people, no matter what it is, how small it is, that's going to help you out tremendously.
Yeah, I think the 2 things that I see is what you just mentioned now, which is just small little details. You don't need to go out and purchase anything, but just random stuff you have. I always appreciate when people put on backpacks or hats or try and envision the character that they have in their mind. But it's 100% true. In 7,000 auditions, you have to do something to set yourself apart. And if I immediately go on there and I see someone in full hiking gear in the middle of California, it kind of sets them apart. It's just, your brain is like, I like this guy. I like his effort. I like what he's trying to do. And, it does help. I don't think it will get you the part, but it definitely will help you, number one, stick in my head, but also just shows that little bit more commitment that we're talking about. We just want a little bit more commitment, to get it where it's going. So I definitely think any little thing like that's important. And then use your space. engage with the camera, move back and forth, left and right. You don't need to sit there like a robot. A lot of the actors for Into the Forest were walking around like they were hiking. You can have a friend hold the camera, just be very careful. Once again, the quality's good, but kind of use that space. I'm not a real big fan of self-tapes because it's not like a movie. It's like a Zoom meeting. It's like, oh, congratulations, you're very good at a Zoom meeting. That doesn't help me out. I want to see how you engage, how you react, how you look at the camera, because that's the stuff that I'm looking for when I'm going to actually be making these movies. So those are just two things to keep in mind when you're kind of doing this, but you just really want to set yourself apart. That's done through appearance, is done through effort, and just small little things, they do add up over time.
Exactly that. I mean, it really is the case. I think the last real bit of, advice when it comes to just the overall process, I would highly recommend, especially if you, don't really have too much experience as acting, taking a look at some of the side roles. And the reason that I recommend the side roles is, one, you typically have higher odds because, most people are going to audition for the main roles and the leads. And another issue that ends up coming up is it will allow you to really kind of focus in on a role that's a little bit more flexible. We've kind of mentioned in the first part that you have the ability to, one, it's kind of a little bit more gender fluid, it's a little bit more age fluid. For a side character in a horror movie, it is a lot more flexible for us when it comes to the main lead characters. The main lead characters are typically, I'd say, a little bit more generic in the sense of they either have a generic look to them, or they're usually more set. And I personally, I'm a huge fan of the side characters more anyways. But with all that being said, as a side character, you just have a lot better odds. You have less people typically auditioning for them. And one of the bigger things is if you do have less experience. So if you're not as experienced as a side character, as we kind of mentioned in the first role, we absolutely love bringing people on, having people basically become part of the DBS Films process, seeing how good they are, and it allows us to level up and give you more experience and more roles. So, if you come on as a side character and you show that you're doing a lot of really good work and a lot of really good hustle, that's going to make it so when you audition for that lead character, we already have experience with you and we're a lot more comfortable. So, I know no matter what I say here, I'm going to get the most lead character auditions, and I completely understand that, but just know you have the most competition, and just also know that we have a lot more flexibility with the side roles to basically open it up to a lot more people in the Discord. So I would say don't ignore those. And it's pretty funny because, some of the people from the Discord that we've cast, and we've cast them on the side roles, they've mentioned to me where they're like, yeah, I figured I'd have a much better shot at this role. And they were 100% correct.
Yeah, the side roles is a great way to start. And if you kind of look at our movies, a lot of the characters had a side role or a non-speaking role, and then they kind of grew into the characters. And we kind of, bring them back. The first thing I want to do is get you in front of the camera. All right, get you in front of the camera and see how you react on set, how you act on set, how you treat everybody on set. That's the first step. Then we can expand into like bigger speaking roles, into larger roles, into eventually you'll become leads. But to get a lead role right off the bat is very hard, because once again, that's me asking an actor who may or may not have a lot of experience to come and essentially take the whole production and put all that weight and pressure and everything and money and everything on top of their shoulders. That's a big ask, especially to someone who doesn't have a ton of experience. So you have to keep that in mind. Like, you really have to make sure that, if you're first starting out, if you're becoming an actor, there's no essentially harm in doing side characters. Look at Roger. He was a side character in Force of Death, and then he got his own movie. Irish was a side character in Roger Project, and he's going to probably be back in a lot of our stuff. So there is no shame in that. I think you just got to keep going. You got to keep hustling. You got to start at the bottom and, just work your way up to the top like everybody else.
Exactly that. So that's going to wrap up the audition process tips. Again, I think going back to the first episode that we were talking about, it's a numbers game. Actually, here's a good last thing to end on. The way you take rejection actually says a lot about you. I would say the vast majority of people do understand the process and whatnot there, but we have had the occasional person who's kind of like, oh, and again, very few, but I've had some person who was like, you knew I was the best person for this and you didn't cast me. That just shows your inexperience, in my opinion. That just shows, one, if you're thinking it like that, it shows your inexperience with acting. But then too, it's almost like we dodged a bullet. Like, you know, if this is really your mindset here, when I talk to experienced actors, they always respond with, "Oh yeah, you know, I totally get it. I totally understand." And then the other people that respond with, you know, hey, better luck, you know, next time. So again, I understand you're not going to be, you know, happy if you don't get the role, but how you take it and taking it gracefully really says a lot about you.
Yeah, I mean, it like if you're gonna come out here and already complain when you didn't get a role, that's not a good philosophy. Like I said, you got to take the long term view. It wasn't the right role for you, wasn't the right project for you. That's totally fine. You know, you'll work on the next one. And especially with us, like if you continue to audition for our stuff, you're going to get better. You're going to be in one of these roles. Why would you kind of sabotage yourself by, you know, talking trash to Kellen or saying stuff like that? It's just not good. So always keep your head up. You know, we're all in this together. We're all getting better together. But it is a process. No one's like guaranteed anything. Nobody is given anything. You have to earn it. The people who get these roles are the best people for these roles. We'll do our best to cultivate and grow and work together, but like you have to be the person to do it. And there is no, you know, we're opposite of nepotism or giving way to, you know, people who don't deserve it. It's the people who get these roles are the ones who earn them, and you have to go out there and you got to earn them. And the way you earn is by doing hard work.
Exactly that. So with that being said, that's going to go ahead and wrap up this episode. Best of luck to everyone that is auditioning for this process. Exactly what we mentioned. We're going to be making a lot more movies. This is the second movie we're filming this year with our goal of filming 2 more at the minimum. And we're even discussing about making 12 movies in a year because we're absolutely insane, but we think it is definitely feasible. So you will have tons of more opportunities. Like I said, again, everyone who's auditioning now, if you continue to audition, you have 100% odds of being in our movies. The only thing that's going to stop you is if you get up, get discouraged. And honestly, if you get discouraged in this process, I don't think you're cut out to be an actor because, as we mentioned in the first episode, it's all about rejection. But with that being said, we are thrilled to have each and every one of you part of the process. We're thrilled to have your support. If you want to be part of this, all you have to do is download the Discord app, click the link in any of our bios to join us, and you can be part of the audition process. But until then, have a good one.